Authenticity is not something we have or don't have. It's a practice, a conscious choice of how we want to live. Authenticity is a collection of choices that we have to make every day. It's about the choice to show up and be real, the choice to be honest, and the choice to let our true selves be seen.
Hi there, and welcome to the Pondering Down podcast, where we talk all things teaching, education, pedagogy, and technology. I'm your host, Danny Summerall, and if you're new to the show, make sure you leave a review and share with your peers. Connect with me on Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube at Pondering Dan, as well as at ponderingdan.com. On today's show, I'll be talking with Karen Caswell about authenticity in education, what that means, and why it's important. Karen is a grade 4 teacher, collegial coach, and beginning teacher mentor at a public primary school on the Gold Coast in Queensland, Australia. She has spent most of her career teaching preschool, prep, and grade 1, and recently moved into teaching years 3 and 4. She's also worked as a learning support teacher, special education teacher in charge, instructional coach, and head of curriculum. Karen is also the founder and host of the weekly Twitter chat, Teach Like a Pirate Down Under. You can find Karen on Twitter at KCasW1 and on her website, karencaswell.com. Those details will be in the description of this episode. So hi, Karen.
Hi, how are you?
Yeah, I'm great. How are you?
Good, thank you. Happy
That's
New
good.
Year.
Yeah, you too. It's gone fast, hasn't it?
Yep.
Yeah. I'm really happy to have you on the show today because I've been a part of the Teach Like a Pirate Down Under chats in the past, and I've always really enjoyed them. I don't get on them as much as I used to, but I still speak very highly of them and recommend other people give them a go as well. And I was lucky enough to meet you just a few months ago at the Eye on the Future 6 conference at Benora Point as well, which was great.
It is. It's always good to meet virtual friends in real life.
Yeah, it is really good. It's and it's not weird anymore. You know, for a while it was weird when you'd meet people live in person, but now it's sort of, you know, you bump into these people everywhere, don't you? Yeah. So we might get started just talking a little bit about Teach Like a Pirate Down Under, which for those of you used to Twitter, you would search that with hashtag TLAP Down Under. So tell us about it.
Okay, so it all started after in 2018, I read the book Teach Like a Pirate, written by Dave Burgess. That book had been out for a number of years before I sort of heard about it. I heard about it through joining Twitter. And so the book really resonated with me, had a really big impact on my teaching and I guess reigniting the passion that I have for teaching. It had come after a time of I'd had some leave from work. I guess I'd been a bit disillusioned, wasn't quite sure of, where I was at in my career, what I wanted to do. And through reading that book, getting started on Twitter, it really had a big impact, as I said, on my passion for being a teacher. So I read the book, was active, started to get more active on Twitter. And during the September school holidays, I joined in the TLAP chat in America. Obviously, during school time for us, it's really hard to join in because it's the middle of the day. But during the school holidays, joined into that Twitter chat. Hadn't participated in a Twitter chat before, so I didn't really know what it was all about. So I joined into that, really enjoyed it. And I sort of had the idea of why not starting one here in Australia, because obviously times make it tricky for us to join in the TLAP chat. It started out as a book study, so more about going through the different aspects of the book, what the pirate acronym stands for and all of that, and then just pretty much continued from there. So that was probably the first 3 months was the book study chat, or 2 months maybe. Okay. And then for all of last year, and we've just started back up again this year, it's just morphed into a regular time chat, still bringing in aspects of, teaching like a pirate, but also the just general education, issues in education, and just different ways that we can be the best teachers that we can be.
Yeah, I like it because it's never focused on one particular thing. It's not just about educational technology, but it focuses a lot on what I think is, the well-being side of things as a teacher. And I think they're important things that we should be discussing and, finding ways that we can overcome issues that we've got, dealing with that.
I mean, the topics are wide and varied because I also have been lucky enough to have lots of guest hosts as well. So often, they sort of say, what do you want me to talk about? And I'm like, whatever you want to talk about. What are you passionate about? I'm really trying to amplify other people's voices as well. And, through being exposed to other people's passions, it makes us better in the job that we do. Have been lucky enough to have a number of the Dave Burgess Consulting authors host chats as well, around obviously their books. And then lots of amazing educators, Australian educators, a couple of other international educators in Asia who've hosted the chat as well. Yeah. One of the things that I really love about it is our wide audience. So we don't just have participants from Australia, and I think this is really something different to the US TLAP chat, is that I've been able to connect people from different countries, different regions, due to the times that we have it. So, we have participants from Asia, South America, Europe, because obviously the times for them is more convenient than, works out that they're able to join in. So that really excites me that, we have such a wide ranging audience.
Yeah, and it creates a big impact as well. Yeah. I think I hosted one last year, was it? Talking a bit about the fish philosophy. And I remember when I reached out to you, Karen, what do you want me to talk about? And you did. You said, whatever you want. And I think if you've been part of the chats before and you know a little bit about it, you kind of work out what you should or where you should go to talk about. And, I talked about, I think it was the fish philosophy, which is a philosophy that we use at the school I work at. And, that relates to having fun at work and being there for your colleagues. And, I thought that fitted in with the Teach Like a Pirate sort of, genre, I suppose. And
yeah, definitely.
Yeah. And I mean, I got a lot out of that, just talking to other people about what they think, and they don't need to know anything about this stuff. They just need to have life experience, really, don't they? Yeah.
And that's a really good thing about, I guess, Twitter chats in general, is you don't need to know it. The whole purpose of it for me is it's a learning experience. So, you're being asked questions, prompting you to think and reflect about things that you may not consider otherwise. And, anything we do like that just can obviously increases our value in our profession.
Yeah, absolutely. And for those that haven't really been part of Twitter chats before, I'm going to link some really good information from another educator, Craig Kemp, on how to get started with Twitter chats in the description to the podcast as well. So how can listeners be part of the conversation?
Okay, so if you jump onto Twitter on a Sunday night, search for the TLAP Down Under hashtag, and then you should see any tweets that have used that hashtag, and you'll see the host tweeting out their questions. I'll retweet the questions as well, so if it's tricky otherwise, you can make sure that you're following me, and then you read through the questions, you respond, include the hashtag, everyone else can see your responses, people can have some side conversations or comment on other people's answers, as well as just the questions that the host posts. The thing that I also like, I guess, is a lot of chats on Twitter are an hour. Ours is just half an hour, so it doesn't take up too much time of your Sunday evening. But it's still a really good opportunity. It's short and sharp, gets to the point, gets you thinking, and I find that it sets me up, I guess, in a positive way for the week ahead.
Yeah. And I guess if you can't be part of the live conversation on the Sunday nights, you can always join in another time, and, you leave comments and people still reply at different times of the week. Yeah.
That's right.
So they're on 8 p.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time, or during daylight savings, it's 8 p.m. Australian Eastern Daylight Time. So I guess depending on where you are in the world, as long as you look for that 8 p.m. either daylight time Australia or Eastern Standard Time when daylight savings is finished. It's like you said when we were talking before, it's a bit confusing, isn't it?
It can be. At least it's 6 months, 6 months. Once you know when the time changes, when daylight saving changes, then you know that it's always going to be that time.
And if you follow Karen on Twitter, you'll see her posts advertising them anyway. So just follow Karen on Twitter. So on your website, you talk about being passionate about authenticity in education. So I guess what does that really mean?
Okay, so I guess the dictionary definition of authentic is of undisputed origin, not a copy, to be genuine. So to me, being authentic in education is being true to yourself, nurturing our students and encouraging them to be their true selves, and respecting our colleagues for who they truly are as well. To quote Brené Brown, who I've read a lot and love, if you follow me, you'll know. Authenticity is not something we have or don't have. It's a practice, a conscious choice of how we want to live. Authenticity is a collection of choices that we have to make every day. It's about the choice to show up and be real, the choice to be honest, and the choice to let our true selves be seen. So there's a lot in there. If you look up her, you'll find that quote.
She's very popular at the moment.
Yeah, and you'll see that quote a lot. I guess the biggest part of that for me is to let our true selves be seen. For whatever reasons, people have their armour and they tend to hide parts of themselves. And I guess it's having the courage, to be who you truly are and let others see who you are. But I do break it down, I guess, into 3 aspects for me to get some clarity around, I guess my vision is authentic self is that part of it, being your true self. And for me, that I need to be my authentic self in order to be happy or healthy. And, I want other people to do that as well. So to support and encourage other people, for people to speak up, speak out and speak their truth. And I want to amplify other people's voices. So authentic learning, as educators, we know that we learn more when what we're learning is of interest and relevance to our lives, if we have a choice in the learning that we do. So obviously it's really important to then offer that to our students as well. We don't just want them being compliant. I want my kids to want to learn and to be getting the most out of every day. So it's providing those authentic learning opportunities and that their learning is real and relevant to them. I've been lucky enough to have gone to a Trevor Mackenzie conference. He came to our school last year. And so a lot of I'm sort of really trying to get into the inquiry-based learning to make the students' learning relevant and real and authentic to them, because it's guided by, their interests, their passions, their curiosities, promoting them or provoking them to think, I guess, as well, and to want to know more about something. And then authentic relationships. So one of my favourite TED Talks by Rita Pearson.
I just wrote her name down actually when you were talking before.
I think most people would know that about every child needs a champion. But in her TED Talk, she says kids don't learn from people they don't like. And we know that, I'm sure, as educators, we've all experienced that, unfortunately. And she also quotes James Comer, who says that no significant learning can occur without a significant relationship. So I guess we can all remember a teacher that, has had an impact on our lives. Mine, unfortunately, was a teacher who had a negative impact on my life. It wasn't anything she overtly did to me, like in person, singling me out. But I just got the sense she didn't like me, felt like she didn't want to be there, she didn't like teaching. And I guess at that particular year, it was grade 5. That was my worst year ever academically. I didn't really see the point, because it was like, she don't care. So for what's the point? And I guess I was old enough in a sense to sort of realise that it didn't matter so much if my teacher liked me or not. We should still want to do well, but I didn't have the maturity to draw on that inner motivation or drive. So I guess, remembering that, and I know a lot of people will be able to tell you the name of a teacher, who had a positive impact on their lives and changed their lives. And we hear and see those stories all the time. So I guess I'm committed to developing those authentic relationships with my students, my colleagues, and all people that I serve.
Yeah, no, that's great. What sort of sparked that? What sparked that passion to talk more about this authenticity?
It probably came more from my own personal life. I've struggled with self-worth most of my life. As a people pleaser, I often put aside what I felt or wanted or needed, and allowed somebody else's needs or wants to take precedence. I guess I've tried to fit the mold, in some way or another for my entire life. I was trying to be the perfect daughter, the perfect student, the perfect wife, the perfect mother, the perfect woman, perfect teacher. And I guess, I came to the realization, I guess the glaring question is, who created the mold? Is there even a mold? What is the mold? I know society plays a huge part in the mold. Our family dynamics in our formative years also have a big influence. But I think it's mainly our inherent need to feel a sense of belonging that drives us to conform or fit a mold. Everyone needs to feel they belong. And often people feel that in order to belong, they need to comply to a list or set of norms or standards. We need to look a particular way, behave a particular way, achieve certain things. But I guess there's nothing more empowering than realizing that there is no mold.
Yeah, and there's no such thing as perfect, is there?
No, that's right. And that's, I guess I was going to say, that's the other thing. If we quickly circle back to that list of things that I felt I had to do, the key word in all of those is perfect. And, that's a big lesson that I've had to learn, is there is no such thing as perfectionism. It has been my strongest armor, I guess, for my life, is, I felt I had to be perfect in order to be worthy, in order to, for others to see my value. But we know that it doesn't exist, and, trying to achieve it is, it's really unhealthy. But, it took me nearly 45 years to learn that lesson.
So I think just not just teachers, but everyone sort of goes through that sense of feeling that they're trying really hard and they're not fitting in, and, what does perfect look like? And, I know for me, I've gone through the same sort of thoughts before, and I think that's probably why I found such a good group of people to interact with on Twitter, because sometimes, you can go to a school and you can have all these passions and interests, and it can be really hard when other people don't share those with you. So I guess we're lucky these days in that, thanks to social media, we can find people that, align with our values and our beliefs and, what we're interested in. And, it's how we connected. I mean, we have those common interests, which is really good.
Yeah.
And I think that's why, going back to the Twitter chat as well, it's important that people seek other avenues. They're not exclusive to one place anymore. We can find these people elsewhere, and they can help you come to those realizations that, okay, I don't need to be perfect, but I can talk to these people if I need to, because we have similar thoughts, similar beliefs. So
yeah, that's right. And I guess the other thing, it led me to wonder, what are the molds we're expecting our students to fit as well? So we've been through that experience as adults. So I guess when it comes to misbehavior, do we see that students are being difficult, or that they're having difficulties, or do we see defiance? Do we expect compliance, or do we celebrate creativity? Do we want student engagement, or do we encourage empowerment? So there's all these sorts of questions that it raised. Do we promote uniformity or diversity? And do we value achievement or improvement? Like, it really just started getting me thinking, what are some of the things that we're expecting of our students, are we providing an environment for them where they can be their authentic selves as well? Are we responding to them? How are we responding to them? From what lens are we looking at them through? And how does that, impact their experience at school? So
I think it forces you to think about, well, why are we doing what we're doing? And why are our students here? What do we want from them? You don't want them just to get 10 out of 10 on a test. You want them to want to come to school. You want to inspire them to learn. And, again, going back to Rita Pearson, if those students don't like you, they're not going to want to learn from you at all. So you're doing a disservice to you and to your students. So we could talk about this till we're blue in the face, really, couldn't we?
We could.
When I was looking at your blog posts, which are really great, by the way, you talk a lot about having a vision, which you've talked a little bit about, and having empathy, kindness, and you talk a lot about mental health as well. And they're all very vulnerable things to talk about. Why do you think it's important that we as teachers are talking about these things?
Well, I could talk about each of those things in great depth.
Yeah.
But I'll try to summarise or give a bit of a snapshot. I'm fairly open now about the struggles that I've faced or that I continue to face, one of which is that I suffer from depression and anxiety. It has been quite bad. I've had to take, I think one stage I was 8 weeks off school. And initially I ignored the many signs that said I was unwell. And, I ignored them for a variety of reasons: sense of responsibility, denial, fear, guilt. But most of all, it was shame. And it's really the stigma attached to mental illness that is why I feel it's important that we talk about it. Everybody, but especially us as educators, talk about it. So obviously starting with the mental health, like we can all agree the statistics are frightening. When you look up look up Beyond Blue, look up the mental health statistics in Australia, they are truly frightening. There's 1 in 4 young people experience a mental health condition. We know anxiety, like we see this in our classrooms day in, day out. The number of young kids with anxiety is increasing. And suicide is the leading cause of death for Australians aged 15 to 14. Wow. So our teenagers, they're suffering. And all of that, obviously that has a huge impact on us as educators, but not only our students. One of the occupations that is most at risk of a mental health condition are teachers as well. So it's about supporting our students, supporting our teachers. Because we are so at risk. And I guess the thing is, when you really start to think about that, we've got to ask the question, why are people still so reluctant to talk about mental health? And again, I think it really does come back to that society's misconceptions about mental health and the stigma that is attached to mental health. It's also difficult. People don't know what to do either, when faced with someone who is suffering. So we really need, I guess, for that education, for it to be more open, so that people will seek help. They won't suffer in silence. So I think everyone has a role to play in creating a mentally healthy community.
Yeah. I was talking to a friend only yesterday about this exact topic with mental health, and I was saying how that we've come to a point where the stigma is a lot less, but it's still not at a perfect point. There still is that stigma there. But what we talked about was how young people now, especially teenagers, are talking about this a lot, and they're very open with it. So I feel like there really is a light at the end of the tunnel where it's really discussed. But then it also goes back to, why it's so important that we are authentic as educators, because that opens doors for people to express themselves to you. So if you've got that student that is suffering depression or anxiety, they're more likely to come and talk to you. You're more likely to be able to support them. And even if that's just by listening, that's, really that's a lot of what people want when they are suffering those things. They just want someone to hear them. They don't necessarily want someone to offer a solution. They just want to be
No.
heard.
Yeah.
But I think it's a pretty powerful thing, and it's great that we're talking about it. I'm really happy that you've discussed it, and you've been really vulnerable as well to talk about your own experiences. And I think a lot of people can really relate to that, especially as teachers.
And
Sometimes,
I mean, it took a lot to get to that point as well. And it is hard because, yes, the stigma is less, and certainly in young people, as you say, but I still think, older people are a certain generation, that's just the way that, well, I was brought up and older people were brought up. So there can be that I guess the way people respond when they hear that those are the things that you've been through. People don't respond those ways with physical illnesses or, but we're getting there. And as you say, we are, we are making progress. So
you're
that's
right.
really important.
And I think,
I guess.
Oh, sorry. No, you go.
No, you go.
I was just going to say, for anyone out there that is, suffering with issues of anxiety or depression, or they even just want to find out more about this sort of stuff, you can go to beyondblue.org.au, and they have some really great information and I guess supporting ideas for you to deal with those things as well. And I know you've talked a lot about it on your website too.
Yeah, and I mean, you can always call Lifeline as
Absolutely.
well if you're feeling really overwhelmed.
Yeah, I'll put those links in the description too, because I think that's important to share that.
Okay, so moving on to empathy and kindness. So empathy is one of our 5 emotional intelligences, and is probably one of the most important social skills as a child or anyone can learn. So the ability to recognise how people feel is important to success in our lives. But more importantly, it's a necessary skill to have in order to make a meaningful contribution to the world. So it's really important that, we provide that with our students, to our students. We teach them that it's not something, some people, I guess it is a bit more inherent and it's more a part of them, but other people not so much, but it can be taught. And the benefits of teaching empathy in the classroom is a positive classroom culture and strengthening the community. And then students learn to understand one another and build friendships based on trust. So it's really important that we can understand other people and how they're feeling, and and it's not feeling it along with them. We may not know, like we may not be able to, we may not have the experience to actually know how they're feeling, but it's recognizing that they're feeling, that they're feeling that way, or what it is that they're feeling, and acknowledging that, that's would be very difficult for them to be feeling that way. With kindness, we know there are many benefits for both the giver and the receiver. We become happier by making other people happy. And there's scientifically proven benefits to being kind as well. So it's not just a warm, fuzzy feeling. There is actually science behind it. And it's important that we teach students how to show kindness to others. I guess the reason that empathy and kindness are such big focuses for me, so I'm passionate about raising kind, caring and active young people. I believe that we need to be able to advocate, they need to be able to advocate for themselves. They need to be able to champion others and make a positive impact on the world. I think I have a really strong sense of responsibility, to try to create a better future for our children. I mean, just imagine, what the world can be if we all just had a little bit of empathy and showed each other kindness. It's really
wonderful.
not that hard. Yeah, it's really not that hard at the end of the day.
No, kindness costs nothing. That's what I've always been taught. And, it's still sort of a motto I live by. If you make eye contact with someone when you're walking, it doesn't hurt to say hello. They might not say it back, but they might feel good that someone took the time to talk to them.
That's right. You never know the impact that you're having.
Yeah. So before we wrap up, Karen, I just wanted to see if you had any advice for teachers if they wanted to explore ways that they could be more authentic in their classroom or in education in general, or just in their personal life, I suppose.
Yeah, I guess, you need to start with knowing yourself. Obviously you can't be authentic if you don't really know who you are. Acknowledging the armor that you may be carrying, or the self-protection methods that you may be using, and be able to recognize when you're using them as well. I mean, it's human nature, a lot of the things we do, but I guess it's recognizing when you're doing it and maybe trying something different instead. And it's knowing, I guess, within yourself, your strengths and your weaknesses, and I guess intentionally working towards the type of person you want to be. I recommend reading Brené Brown or listening to her audiobooks. A lot of it I've listened to, haven't necessarily read. Her Netflix special, her TED talk. It's really very helpful in helping you understand, but also helping you realize that lots of people, feel the way that you feel. Lots of people go through things. So I guess it really needs to start with that. You really need to know who you are as a person. You need to know your values. What is important to you? What are the values that you're going to live by? Often when things don't feel right with us, it's usually because we're not living within our values, or there's something happening, or we're in a situation where we're having to go against our values. So it's really important to know what your values are. And I think as an educator, to have a vision. What is it? Why do you go into your classroom every day? Or, why do you go to school if you're in a leadership position? What is it you want to achieve? What drives you? What's your passion?
Yeah.
You need to know why you're doing the things that you do.
Yeah. There's some really good advice there. So thanks so much, Karen, for being part of the show today. I'm really happy we've had this chat. Again, you can find Karen on Twitter. Her handle is at KCASW and the number 1. So KCASW1. And on her website, karencaswell.com. And if you'd like to be part of the Teach Like a Pirate Down Under conversation, there every Sunday night. You just have to search for the hashtag TLAP Down Under. At the moment, they're 8 p.m. Australian Eastern Daylight Time. Once daylight savings is finished, it's 8 o'clock Australian Eastern Standard Time all year round. And like I mentioned before, if you're new to Twitter and Twitter chats, I'll post some useful information for you in the description of this episode. And finally, if you have any questions for Karen or myself about today's episode, or if you think you'd like to be part of the podcast, drop me a line at dan@ponderingdan.com. Any questions that you have for Karen, I'm more than happy to pass them on to her as well. So thank you again, Karen.
Thank you very much for having me.
No
I've enjoyed
worries.
having the conversation.
Yeah, thank you. And so have I. And hopefully our listeners have gained some useful insight from what you've shared today. So thank you very much. So that's all for this episode. Until next time, I'm Danny. We'll chat to you soon. Bye.